All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Job Search Lunch and Learn. We're a job search support group. No, you may not want to be here, but our goal is to be able to provide you with assistance, support, job search tips, tricks, and tools. Haven't had my coffee yet. I need to make sure that I get that done so that my mouth keeps working, right? Okay. So the idea here is that we're doing this as a way of providing support. Want to make sure that this is also a networking opportunity. So make sure that you're adding your information in the chat. Tell us whether or not you're willing to connect, what you're looking for, and provide support for one another there as well. That said, I'm Linda Brubaker, and I'm a job search coach. And I've been actually a dedicated job search coach for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I have over 20 years of experience as a recruiter, both inside companies as well as a headhunter, and experience as an HR business partner and talent acquisition manager. So the information that I provide comes from all sides of that job search desk. And I'm happy to share that as of this morning, we have 866 people that I've worked with over the last 7 years who have gotten offers. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get an offer, but what it means is that that's my social credibility. I know that what I'm talking about works, and I'm happy to share that information with you. Now, I do this as a labor of love because I really believe that I want to be able to give back. In fact, I've got a give back offer that I want to talk about in just a minute. But what supports my ability to do these rooms is the fact that I am that job search coach, and that's my business. I provide one-on-one assistance in terms of resumes, LinkedIn profiles, interview prep, job search strategy. What do you want to look for? How do you get yourself out there? How do you follow up? How do you engage? All of those things I can do with you on a one-on-one basis. And that coaching, that income from that coaching is what enables me to do free programs like this one. Okay, that's it. Now, I mentioned that I have a free offer, and I'm going to mention it twice. I'm participating in a global give back week, a week of goodness. And as my offering is part of that, what I'm doing is I'm offering 18 people the opportunity for a free 15-minute resume review. Now, as of now, it's a limited offer, okay? I've already had 6 people take me up on that offer. If you want to be one of them, if you want to ensure your spot, in the chat, please put in all caps, resume review. And if you are one of the next 14 people, okay, then I will reserve that spot for you. I do have to limit it, okay, just so that you are aware. Okay, because I'm looking at the chat blow up over here. Hopefully I can get you all in, but we will see. Okay, because this offer is also available on LinkedIn. So I'm trying to do it in terms of timing and who gets what. All right, perfect. I will add all of my information into the chat in a minute. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do is get the meeting started. And if you've been here before, you know that we always start with quick wins. So anybody have a quick win that they would like to share?
I'll throw one out there.
Perfect.
I'm engaged in a conversation about an interim general manager role for basically as a plant manager, they call it general manager. Not quite the size and scale and scope that I would like to have as a permanent role, but it would be an interim role in that respect. And it would be in a industry vertical that I'm interested in to help give me some stripes in that vertical. So yeah, a good win. Hope it works out.
That's fantastic. Keep us posted. Let us know how we can help and support you. Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. And by the way, the raised hand really helps because especially with so many people in the room, I need to be able to see who's there. And okay, I'm going to Chad.
Right. So I'm probably going to miss next week's meeting because I was invited to a 6th-round in-person interview next Wednesday.
Oh my.
Firm I've been talking with. So I'll probably be there instead of here.
That's quite all right. We completely understand. And we wish you lots of luck. The only thing that I'm going to ask is that when you're done, okay, get back to us. Let us know how it went and how we can support you. We want to be able to celebrate you too.
Will do. Yeah.
Perfect. Hi, Deb.
Hi, so I have my first in-person interview in 3 months since being laid off this afternoon. I'm a little nervous, but confident at the same time. I'm going to use some of your old questions from the last time you helped me, Linda. So I still have that list, so I look forward to reusing those questions. I'm a little nervous because the company has a very low Glassdoor rating, and that scares me a little bit. But I'm going to put my best foot forward and see what they have to say. And I'm actually going to ask them, point blank. I was doing my research. As part of my research, I always go to Glassdoor. Can you explain to me, or can you give me some reasonings as to why it's lower compared to other companies? Or I'll have to finesse it, but
Yeah, you'll have to change your wording a little bit. The other thing that I would do is that's a perfect situation to go out and do some informational interviewing with people who have either currently employed there, it doesn't have to be in the same department, or people who have recently left to get their take on company culture.
Mhm.
Okay.
It'll be interesting.
It will definitely be interesting. Yeah, Glassdoor is an interesting kind of a site. Okay. It's like the Yelp for job search.
Right. If you're disgruntled, you're going to say negative things.
That's
And
exactly
if it's positive, you wonder if it's legit or if somebody was paid by the company or encouraged by the company to say something nice. So
absolutely. So that's why you have to, it's a good thing to take a look at. If you're seeing the same thing over and over and over again, it is definitely something to check out. Okay. And see where that goes. But always do your due diligence, and those informational interviews, checking with people who've recently left or recently joined the company, are really a good way of trying to get that added information. And I recommend that if you're going to be moving forward at all.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? All right. Well then, let me see if I can do this.
So if I may,
Yes.
so I sent my resume about 2 weeks ago to a recruiter, in-house recruiter, and he set up a meeting with me on July 4th morning, which is fine. And then he had to cancel it. And then we got in touch last Monday. They are looking for somebody with consumer SaaS, which I don't have. I have enterprise. And then he gave me a 3-page, 4-page of questionnaires and talk about your background and everything, and took like a few hours to send it to him last week. Haven't heard back. And I look at their Glassdoor. Apparently, they do this a lot. That they talk to people, ask them to fill up that. It took like 3 hours. Even I used ChatGPT, still took about three hours to fill it. I'm still hopeful, but
What
it's
kinds
good.
of questions did they ask for a 3-hour questionnaire?
Oh, it's like 3 pages, and each question, and tell me about all the strategic wins that you had over the past 5 years, stuff like that,
Okay.
and everything. So,
Hey,
was it
Linda.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So whether it's a win or not, at least I got engagement and some conversation. But I just wanted to share because I keep seeing these things that they either want you presentation or they want you fill up these massive questionnaires. Just wanted to. So
Okay.
is it a win? I don't know, but just wanted to share with the team.
So Pam.
Linda, these are going around all over the place right now. I have an IT Slack channel and they're happening in there as well. Basically, what they're wanting is for you to do work for them.
And that's where I was going to go.
And they are going to take your work and use it and never talk to you again.
Yep. So be
Do
very
not do
careful.
these things.
So if you're going to be able to, they're asking you for a lot of information, give them minimal, give them one example. Okay. And I'm not talking about work. If they want to know an example of a win, give them the kind of a win statement you would include on your resume. Okay.
I
Here's
wouldn't
a big
even bother
accomplishment.
because they're not looking, Linda. They're actually
And many
not
of them are
even
not.
looking to hire anybody.
Many of them are not. But
I
some of
wouldn't
them,
waste.
some legitimate companies are trying to do that. My concern would be if they're asking for things like the wins, that should already be on your resume. Okay. And I would go back to them and say, you know, these are questions that are better answered either by looking at my resume or in a conversation. Okay. And if we are moving forward, I am happy to provide additional information. Tell me what the next steps are. A lot of companies are asking for you to do those project kinds of things. And you're absolutely right, Pam. It is, in many cases, free work, okay? Where they're going to ask you to do all of this, and then in many cases, we'll see them take your work without crediting you, without paying you, and see it's there. So my recommendation for those kinds of things, in some cases, a small project is not bad, okay? But you're not giving them the whole thing. You're giving them up to a point, and then you say, when I start working with you, and I've had an opportunity to talk with all the rest of your people and read your numbers and do all of this, then here's how I would go about, but here's just a sample. So you're not giving them the free work. You're just showing them that you know what you're talking about. And you're demonstrating that you understand that your work has value. And that while you want to be able to provide it to them, there is a time and a place for that to happen. Great point, Pam, and Allie, be careful.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. I appreciate that.
So if any of those conversations, if any of those questionnaires that they're sending you up front take too much time to complete, always question it. If they're asking you for more information than you think is appropriate, don't do it. This is not a free paid work assignment. You are not providing them with free consulting. Don't let them get away with it. And if you have questions and you want to have a quick answer about how to phrase that for them, okay, put it in our group chat and I'll see whether or in the private chat, and I'll see whether I can't answer it, or send me a quick little email. Carl.
Yeah, I guess on another quick win, I have another follow-up interview with the recruiter for a COO role, which is meaty and would be exciting. The one concern the COO has basically raised is that my most recent experience isn't super deep dived in the ops, in the ops function, and that the resume did not reflect that. So I am customizing the resume a bit to highlight how more recent roles did interact, engage with ops, and also how my most recent role, I was very much engaged with operations activities, overseeing the VP of ops. So excited about that. Hope it works out, but I'd probably say maybe less than 50% chance at this point.
Okay, so two quick things. One of which is that I would actually turn the negative into a positive. Okay. And there was somebody else, and I don't remember, Carl, whether it was you or someone else earlier, and I do apologize, who said, you know, I'm not in that direct industry. Okay, so they were, oh, no, it was somebody who said, I have enterprise experience rather than consumer experience or individual experience. Turn it into a positive. Okay. It's not, I don't have that. It's, I don't have that. You're right. And that's a good thing, because what I do is that I bring you industry standards. I bring you the best there is out there. I bring you my knowledge of how things work and how to get things done. And I will learn from you, because I'm not coming in with preconceived notions about how things should work, okay, in your organization. So I'm going to learn from you and your employees what works best. And that becomes a big win for you and for the company. So always turn that negative, I don't have, into the positive, yes, that's great. Okay, and show them how that makes sense for them. But the other thing, Carl, is you should be actually tailoring your resume every time, trying to figure out from what their job posting is, from what their company website says, what their hot buttons might be, and then make sure that your resume reflects some of those. Good luck. Uh-huh. Other wins. Okay. All right. I think the captions are on, but I can't tell. So if you can enable captions if you want to, just let me know whether or not you can see those, please. Oh, there we go. All right, now we can try it. Perfect. Sometimes I forget something. Please call me out when I do. I never mind, and I really appreciate it. All right, other wins? I haven't had a chance to read the chat much, so if there's something specific there that's in the chat, I will either respond to it in the private group or raise your hand and let's talk about it. Because I'm seeing, what about doing something like, I bring a different perspective? Absolutely. Yes, Alex.
Following on from that question you asked about doing work for free, I am dealing with dodgy recruiters. Something I've found mainly on the contract side is being contacted and people wanting an exclusive agreement to represent you, and they send all these documents you're supposed to sign. Yeah, I don't do it. I did it once and before I really read about it, and then
No.
from now on, and I'm in Boston, and for some reason the numbers always seem to have a New Jersey area code, and the person speaking to me is actually in India, and it's
We're seeing a
becoming
lot of that
repetitive.
happen.
It's probably happened about 20 times in the last year.
Yeah.
And now
I'm
I don't
surprised that it
even
was only 20.
respond. So
Okay.
I mean, I had to be there, just sort of blanket, don't respond when I see the number. And
Okay.
that's another thing to look out for.
So there are legitimate recruiters in New Jersey, so please don't automatically exclude them. But by the same token,
maybe there are, but why are they recruiting in Boston? There are plenty of recruiters in Boston.
I can tell you that one. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Sure. So if I'm an outside recruiter, okay, I work for companies, and the companies that I work with could be anywhere in the US. So even though I'm in Chicago, I could be recruiting for a company in Boston or in San Diego. It's not where I sit, it's where the job is.
Maybe.
Okay. Even for an internal recruiter, some companies have internal recruiters who may sit in cities other than where the job is specifically posted. So just because the location is different than where the job is, I wouldn't necessarily rule it out.
Are you talking about like an in-house corporate recruiter as opposed to a recruiting agency? That's what I'm talking about.
Either one. Okay. So I was a headhunter for a number of years. Mm-hmm. I work out of Chicago. But the companies that I was working for, where I was trying to place people, okay, could be California, they could be Minnesota, they could be Texas, they could be Delaware. It made no difference. So I was recruiting for jobs, even though I sit in Chicago, I was recruiting for jobs all over the country. What concerns me more is those exclusive agreements. I'm very hesitant and would never ask a client to sign one. I would never ask a candidate to sign one. If you do, if they're bringing you and they say you need it, and you feel like you need to sign it for one position only. For this particular position, I agree that you can represent me. And the reason for that is whether you're signing that or not, you only want to go into the company portal once for that position. If you're being presented on your own and you have 3 other recruiters who are also presenting you, in all likelihood, you will not get pursued. Companies don't want to get caught up in that mess. So if a recruiter is talking to you about a position, double check and make sure that they really are going to present you
I actually take it as a red flag that they feel they need to do that. Because again, when I've dealt with, say, Robert Half or K-Force, that, I've got a relationship with them,
Yeah.
and, I would never screw over a recruiter that's gotten me work in the past. And I think it's a red flag that they don't really have a relationship with the company. They're just going through bulletin boards looking for roles and then trolling for resumes.
Yep.
Because I've done it twice and I've never heard anything afterwards,
Yep.
So
I have no
Good,
problem with you not signing one of those agreements.
good.
Okay. Now I did see somebody in the chat, and I don't remember what it was, asking about a verified profile. Okay. And I know this is not an open forum right now, and I want to make sure we do have time for networking. So let me ask that one real quickly. So verifying your own profile, yes, please. What that does is it just tells me that you are not only a legitimate person, okay, but it gives me some added information, says you've actually looked at your profile recently. Number two, LinkedIn is now given the option for recruiters to get verified. Double check to make sure that the recruiter is verified before you sign anything or before you talk with them. Some of them are still not doing it, but they should. And especially when they are posting jobs on LinkedIn, that verified recruiter should show up if it is there. That says that, at least as far as the LinkedIn backend is concerned, they are a real person. Still not a guarantee, but it's better than nothing. So do double check those. If you are getting contacted by recruiters and you're really not sure whether or not they're legit, in addition to checking that, double check the website for the company they say they work for. See whether or not they're actually associated with that company. Okay, you go into the company's website, using Robert Half as an example, go into Robert Half on LinkedIn and their company page, look at people, see whether or not this name of the recruiter shows up. If it doesn't, that's a red flag. Okay. All right. So that leads us to some extent into, okay. Sandra, I will talk to you about not being able to do that offline or in the private group. Okay, I don't want to spend the time right now. But I do want to talk about reaching out and following up with people, because that was really the topic of today's conversation. And what's important about that is that we all know that, just as Alex was saying, you do this and you never hear, or you apply and you don't know where to go, or you want to follow up and it's there. And too many times it is absolutely true that recruiters aren't going to list themselves as being available for that particular opening. So what you do, there are lots of different ways that you can try and find a particular email address. Now, I recommend that if the recruiter's name is listed on the posting, you send them, you apply for the position, send them a LinkedIn message talking about the role, not saying anything else beyond that. And, I'm so excited by this that I just applied for the role. Please take a look. I'd love to move forward. Looking forward to the next steps. You're not reiterating everything that you've done. You're not making this a huge sales pitch. It truly is just a reach out. I'm interested. I've sent my information. Here's one or two things that that causes me to be interested. I am looking forward to take a look, please, and I'm looking forward to next steps. Some recruiters will respond to that, but what we are hearing from recruiters is that they seem to like that follow-up. It's not necessarily going to guarantee anything, but you've taken that extra initiative, and that's a good thing. Yes, Austin.
Yeah, I've been doing that, but I've been attaching my resume as well. Is that not recommended?
You could. Okay, but have you already applied on the company site?
Yes.
Okay. You could do that. But a lot of recruiters aren't going to take the time to actually read that specific resume there. They may take a look at your LinkedIn profile and see what's there. It won't hurt you to attach your resume, but it's not necessarily going to help you to do that.
So it's just basically personal choice if you want to attach it or not.
It's personal choice. But remember
Okay.
that if you are attaching your resume, make sure that it is the one specifically designed for that role.
Or that position. Yeah. Yeah, it's right after I apply for that position. I'll use that resume.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can do, I don't know about you guys, but my LinkedIn inbox is really pretty big. Okay. And so messages have a tendency to get lost. So much so that I've decided that once a week I go back through all of those messages to see who I may have missed. Recruiters are going to be the same thing. So here's a trick. If you can find the email address, email them in addition to what you're doing on LinkedIn. I'm on email all the time as a recruiter. Those emails pop up. Again, this is not your sales pitch. You've already applied because it has to go into their system. But it's another way of saying, hey, I'm really interested and please take a look. Here's an additional piece of information. Looking forward to next steps. So think about it almost as a very, very, very short version of your cover letter. Yes, Deb. You have to unmute.
Can you do the same thing if you applied for a position and then got a rejection, but then later found out that you believe it was because salary? Can you reach out to them via email saying, hi, I applied, I got a rejection, but I wanted to let you know that if it's because of salary, I am flexible and, would welcome the opportunity to still have
The salary requirement on what they were looking for was too high?
I believe so. The salary requirement was not listed in the job description.
Unfortunately, that happens a lot. But they were asking you for what your range was.
Yeah, they asked me for what my salary requirement was. I couldn't put in a range, so I put in salary. And because you were only able to put in numbers. So you couldn't say, but I'm flexible or anything like that. So I later found out that it was less, like 10 grand less than what I had put it in for, but I would still take that because I put in more than what I was making.
Okay.
So I have wiggle room.
I understand. So I would go back, and yes, you can do that, but I'm not sure that I would necessarily say that you might say that you don't want to be ruled out because of the salary question on the application. Okay. But you could say, I added something there because it's a point of conversation and because I required it. Rather than saying, oh, I said 10,000 more than I was willing to take. They don't need to know that at this point. But again, I would re-emphasize what it is you bring to the role. And in that email, what I might say actually, Deb, is this: I'm much more interested in the work that I'm going to be doing and the people that I'm going to be working with
than the salary.
Okay. And I know that you can come up with a range that will work for both of us.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alex.
From what I've been told about salary, when you enter it on an application in an ATS system, that's just to make sure that you're in the neighborhood and you're not, but that's not a number that you're sort of held to. Because usually when I actually speak to a talent acquisition person, they will ask, what's your salary, requirements, and I usually turn it. Being an FP&A guy, I understand that it's not what I want, it's what's in the budget. So I
Right.
turn it around and say, you tell me what's in the budget, and then
Oh,
we'll talk
perfect.
about whether I like that.
Perfect.
That's because usually that's the question. You go, and you undersell yourself, and I just found, as working FP&A, I know everybody's salary when I do that, so I know that's in the budget. So if you're recruiting for me, you tell me the range you're planning on, and I'll tell you if I like the range. And you know, they can't dodge the question, because to get a rec done in the first place, you have to have a salary range. So
Exactly.
I'm
And
the
there's
evil
still some,
FP&A
yeah.
guy using my skills to.
And unfortunately, there's still
use-
some companies that will refuse to do it. We can't share that information. Well, then let's wait and talk about
You
salary.
can't really say that with a straight face. You
Yeah.
can't. As
I
a
agree
talent
with
acquisition person, you know you can't say that with a straight face.
You're right, but I've still seen some trying. So here are a couple of things. One of which is you're right. You're not tied to the salary, even if you put it on the application. This is your guesstimate based on what you think they need at the time and what you think the appropriate range is if you're doing it. If it is a required field and there is no information, there are a couple of things that I might do, depending upon where you live. One of which is you're going to do your salary research to see what the salaries might be for those positions. Check on places like salary.com and payscale.com to get some ideas. The other thing that I might do would be to check in states that have positions that might be similar, where we know that they are providing legally salary ranges for the positions as part of that posting. Now, in Illinois, that's going to be required as of January 1st. Other states are moving in that direction. And if your state hasn't done it yet, it's a great time to contact your state legislature and say, you know, salary transparency works for employers, it works for candidates. It's something that really should be required if the state is serious about, and some states aren't, about encouraging pay for performance, pay for value, as opposed to, I don't want to say this to a state legislator, but as opposed to just perpetuating salary areas and issues that have been there in the past. You don't want your salary to be based on what you earned before. You want your salary to be based on what you bring to this particular role. Okay, so that said, if I were looking, for example, for a job, and I'm in Illinois, and Illinois isn't posting those yet, but I might look for a similar position in Colorado. And I know that that sounds strange, but Colorado is one of the states that has adopted that salary range on postings in a very good way. They are posting actual salary ranges as opposed to New York, which allows companies to post anything from 40,000 to 400,000 on the job. We know that that's not realistic. Colorado is actually posting ranges that are internal to the company. So that's a good thing. So if you can find something similar there, that gives you an idea. If it is a required field on the posting or on the application, you might try just putting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See whether or not that works. I have had no candidate turn down who tried that. I've had several who've had recruiters reach out and say, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a real number. Ta-da, you're actually looking. Okay. At which point you can then say, but you're right. Because at this point, I don't know enough about the job and you don't know enough about me for me to give you a real number. I'm happy to discuss that further as we move forward and you learn more about me and I know about the role. Even if you do put down a number, my recommendation is to look at, if you can, try and find a range somewhere and then go no higher than midpoint. Okay. This is not going to tie you to that number. It is simply to get your foot in the door. And to be honest with you, the only reason companies still ask that question is to see whether or not they can screen you out just based on salary. Okay, as Deb was mentioning. When you're actually in the process and you get toward the end, okay, and they ask you now, what are you looking for? Well, based on what I know now about the role and what you know about me and the value that I bring, I'm looking at something in this kind of a range. What do you think? You want to be able to talk about salaries from a position of knowledge. whenever you can. So just because you put something down on that application, it does not tie you to it. Okay, all right. So what I really want to do though, because we only have a couple of minutes left, because I really do want to be able to get into the networking if you all want, is talk a little bit about some of the sites you can use and some of the ways that you can reach out to people. In our private group yesterday or the day before, Sherry mentioned that, or shared a way that you can request information from LinkedIn about all of your contacts. And I highly recommend actually that you do this at least once a year. You go into, let me see if I can show you. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Once I get there. Because there are a couple of things that I want you to do in terms of your privacy settings, which will all work toward being able to contact people or be contacted by them. Oops, too many windows up. Okay, so I'm going to go into me. Oops. Okay. I'm going to go up here to me, settings and privacy. And if I recall correctly, I'm going into, yep, data privacy. Get a copy of your data. Here are the things that LinkedIn will download for you from your profile. So I just did this last night as an example. I downloaded all of my connections. What that does, and you can download a variety of other things as well. If you haven't done it recently, I also recommend that you download your profile at least once a year. That will come to you as a PDF, just so that if your account gets lost for some reason or gets locked out and you need to recreate it through LinkedIn's help, you have that copy. But if you're downloading your connections, you will come back, LinkedIn will send you a zip file that you can then open and import into a spreadsheet. That will come in as a CVS file and it will look like this. So obviously what you're going to do is you're going to then spread it out. But you'll notice that the information that you get will include their URL, which you may or may not choose to keep in there. But most importantly, what it does is it includes the email address that they have associated if they have allowed it. Okay. Not everybody includes their email address as part of their contact information, and not everybody allows their contact information, their email address, to be downloaded from LinkedIn. I don't. But if they do, that gives you that additional information. It also tells you the company that they work for and what their title is, at least at the time right now, because that can change. Now, if you wanted to, what you could do is you can then sort this information by company to see if you have contacts that are there. It also, let's say that you've got one contact at Authentic Influence Group, but you want to find somebody else. Now, at least you know what that email format is. It gives you that option of trying to find it out. LinkedIn will not give you the email address of somebody who says, don't share my email address. But it gives you the option, if I've said I'm going to do it, to be able to do that. Okay. Now, the other thing is that if you wanted to, and I want to go back into LinkedIn again for a minute. Maybe. You get to choose whether or not your email address is shareable. While this continues to work, there we go. So again, if you're going into me, settings and privacy, there are two things that I want you to do. Back to data privacy. Maybe not. Oh, let's try this. They keep moving things around, sorry. Profile discovery using email address. No, that's not it. Yeah. So now I'm in visibility. Who can see or download your email address? Anybody can see my email address on LinkedIn because I've included it. But I am not allowing people to export my email address. If you want my email address and you were exporting your contacts as I just did, my email address is not going to show up there. The reason that I have disabled that is that there are too many people who are trying to use some AI backdoor tricks that LinkedIn doesn't like, that I don't like, to try and go in and just pull email addresses from people out of LinkedIn and then add it to their database for marketing purposes or other things. I don't want that. So I'm not allowing people to just mass download or download my email address as part of a mass dump. If you want my email address, it's there, but you have to go in manually and find it. You get to choose that. Okay, and then the last one that I wanted to look at. I have to find where it is now because they keep moving it. What I'm looking for, and if somebody knows where it is, here we go, who can reach you with messages. So now I'm on data privacy. When you go into somebody's profile, you'll often see that little message button. The message button is incredibly useful, but unless you set it properly, not everybody can message you. The default on LinkedIn is that I can only send you a message if either we are first level connections Or if I am using a premium account and so are you, you'll often try and message somebody and you'll see that message popped out. Okay. You need to be able to enable this and pay for this in order to get this message through. Don't do that. You want to make messaging as open to everyone as possible. So go into data privacy, messages, and you want to turn all three of these buttons on. You want to enable message requests. You want to allow people to send you email. And you also want everyone to be able to send you what's called an open profile message. That means no one has to pay anything in order to send you a message.
Linda, is that only available if you're a premium member? Because I don't have that last choice.
I'm not a premium member.
That's interesting.
So are you in data privacy?
I'm in the right screen. I just don't have open profile messages. I only have in-mail and message requests.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That may
that's
be that, you know, the unfortunate thing about LinkedIn is they roll out something to some people and eventually give it to everybody. So
True.
that may just be a quirk. So it's good. Now it's good for us to all know that if we don't all have it, that we may get it at some point.
Double check it. And on a routine basis, I would go in once a week. It's also possible, Louis, that it's the other way around, that they are deleting it from some people and haven't done it yet. I don't know. But if you can find it, that open profile message is something you really want to enable. Okay. All right. Next. The reason that that's important is part of that idea of reaching out to people. And you want to be able to do that. Now, the same way that I was able to download my connections and see what companies they're in. If you and I are connected, you can go into my connections, in effect. So you're going to search for people at company X, and you're going to look for second level connections. That gives you the ability to see who somebody else might be connected to. Those second level connections are one of the huge benefits of connecting with people. It expands your reach exponentially. You all know that, or maybe I'm telling you something you already know. I don't know everyone who's in my connection list. I haven't had a conversation with them, although I'm trying to go back to them and try and do that. But just because I don't necessarily know who they are, they're not my best friend. If they are connected to me, I can still do a LinkedIn message or connection invitation, not connection invitation, introduction, okay, to you via messaging. Message you and that contact and say, you know, something about you two ought to talk. It's another way of broadening that reach. I'm not going to tell you that everyone follows through on it when we send those out, but I would say that more than 50% of the time, you will at least get a message back from the person that we tried to do this with. I know that a lot of people are asking broad questions. Do you have any connections at? Do some of the work yourself. So if you're asking for connections in that way, in that broad way, you're asking for people that I actually know and have conversations with. Is there somebody you can really put me in contact with that you know and can talk to me about? As opposed to, I just want that lead and I want to be able to do that initial networking. Okay. And then you build that relationship and that rapport yourself. So it is a combined process. Now, there are several ways that you can actually find email addresses, because one of the things we talked about earlier is the fact that, email is sometimes as effective or more effective in terms of getting a hold of people than, I think I have the right document. Yep. Than doing it through LinkedIn. Now, I highly recommend LinkedIn anyway, but if you are looking for email addresses and you've got a name, okay, and you're going to go into the company's website, check out their people, see whether you can find names there, but you can use either just trial and error, You have the name of one person in that company, you know the format, first name dot last name, first initial dot last name dot first name, last name, first initial. Tries various things and see what goes through. But you can also try things like some of these websites, and I'm going to add these to our private chat so that you have them available. What I've also included is not only what these sources, what these sites do, but also, if I have it, what the pricing might be, because some of these are going to charge. Now, almost all of them will give you the opportunity to do a free trial, but at least there's something there. Also, double check with your library to see what resources they might have. Mara, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. What's your perspective on profile viewing options and having your name and headline being visible throughout your activity on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Your name and headline is part of your marketing. Make it visible to everyone on, and if you can, off LinkedIn as well. But it should be there as part of every response. It should be there as part of everything. Make sure your picture is also open to everyone on LinkedIn. You don't have to make your picture available off LinkedIn if you don't want to. But on LinkedIn, absolutely. One of the other things that we're finding is that those profile views are becoming more and more important. You're going to continue to see people who you're going to have their names that they're looking at your profile. You're going to see more anonymous. But even if people don't go into the full profile, they will see some things out there. And you want to make sure that that headline really represents who you are and what you want to do. And it's those first 40 to 50 characters in that headline that are most important. The same way as that first 2 to 3 lines in your about section may be the only thing I read. And the first 2 skills are the only things that are going to show up on your profile. So there are lots of different things that you can do to stand out. But the purpose, if you're in job search, or even if you're just using this for networking, you want to be as visible as possible to as many people as possible. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We didn't get to a lot of what I wanted to talk about, and we're already at 12 o'clock, and I do want to give you time to do a little bit of networking, and I have a hard stop today at 12:30. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, if you're still willing to stick with me for a minute or two, is that following up is an important thing, but there's a difference between following up and stalking. If you're asking how often you should follow up, I've seen, some people say no more than 3 times, and I kind of agree with that. Okay. If you're doing too much, it really does appear as though, especially if it's 3 times without a response, it really appears as though you're stalking, you're pushing. I've already demonstrated that I'm really not interested. Okay. But if you are following up, then make your each individual contact, make it slightly different than the one before. You want to give them a reason to read and respond. There is never a reason to berate. You didn't read my last email, so I'm just checking to see whether or not you got it. Do it as if you have never sent an email before. Or, I wanted to let you know that I'm really still interested and want to know whether there's any additional information I can provide. I've applied to this position. Here again is a copy of my resume if you're interested, and I'd love to talk to you more. Short, sweet, to the point. If you are doing this as a networking conversation, as opposed to following up on a job that you've actually applied for or you're in the process with, for a networking conversation, your goal for any of those networking outreach conversations is, what can I learn about you? Not selling you me. It's not asking for a job. Certainly not in the first contact. You found something on their profile that was interesting, or in a comment that they made or a post. You'd like to learn more. It is a very short statement. It is learning something about them, asking for a 10-minute conversation. Okay, a virtual coffee chat. You want to do it a second time because you haven't heard from the first? At that point, you should have done something on their profile or their comments so that you become a viable name. And then again, comment on what you saw or something else you learned. Something different. But again, it's learning about them. It is not a pitch. Pitching in messaging is highly frowned upon. Not just by the people who are receiving that pitch, but it is becoming frowned upon in some senses from LinkedIn as well. Okay, they haven't figured out completely how to handle that, but it is something that you can see LinkedIn taking more advantage of. So you can report that message as spam, and I've started doing that. If I'm just getting pitch messages, they just go to spam. LinkedIn pays attention to that. You get too many people calling you out as spam, that will restrict your account and your ability to send messages, at least for a period of time. You don't want that. LinkedIn jail is not a fun place to be. Don't ask me how I know. Okay. Other questions? I will put that list of resources in our private group. I will go through the chat and see what else we can do. But if anybody is interested in doing a 20-minute small group networking session, I'm going to set those up in a minute after I stop the recording.